Fear is a reaction, courage is a decision, said Sir Winston Churchill, a British politician, army officer, and writer. Lots of people are forced into unfortunate situations and have to choose to either let the fear take over or be brave. In the book Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, many of the characters are put into these situations, but there is one who faced their problems head on and showed courage even in the worst time, and that character is Colonel Graff. To start, Graff was willing to risk everything to end the war with the buggers. As time started running out, he put all his faith into Ender and was willing to sacrifice the school and rodent system in order to train him. He also risked trouble with the government a multitude of times. For instance, when Bonzo began threatening Ender, Graff couldn't step in because it would ruin his plan. Other government officials heard of this as well and informed him that if his plan failed, they would ruin Graff's name. Not only that, but if he failed, Ender would die as well, leaving the world with no hope of survival. In the beginning of the chapter Bonzo, Graff was talking to this official, and after being threatened, his response was, "Fair enough. I'll have your name disgraced throughout the world if you're wrong." Fair enough. Card 202. He understands the official's reasons and is willing to accept the consequences of his failure, but refuses to stop anyways. He sticks with what he believes in and is willing to risk anything in order to save those things. Second of all, he is determined to survive and win the fight with the buggers, and will sacrifice almost anything to ensure the survival of Earth. For instance, he isolated Ender to make him learn that no one will help him and forced him to believe that no one will ever do anything for him. They discuss this in the beginning of chapter 12, saying, Ender Wiggin must believe that no matter what happens, no adult will ever step in to help him in any way. Card 202. As a result, Ender eventually broke, refusing to get out of bed and hardly putting any effort into what he did do. The only things he really did were the simulations, which he still did well in. Besides that, he never left his bed and only ate when he was told to. Graff did what had to be done, and because of it, Ender almost gave up. He did what he had to protect Earth, and in the end paid the price. Graff is determined to survive the war and save the world. Third of all, Colonel Graff is selfless. He and is more concerned with saving the world than taking care of his own needs. For instance, he got himself into trouble with the government while doing what he thought was right. He had done so much that after the war was won, he was put on trial. I said I did what I believed was necessary for the preservation of the human race, and it worked. We got the judges to agree with that the prosecution had to prove beyond doubt that Ender would have won the war without the training we gave him. Card 306. He was almost arrested for the training he put kids through, and he did it for the people on Earth who would have otherwise died if the buggers attacked. So far, it may seem that Ender is more courageous than Graff. After all, he was the one putting up with all of this and still deciding to live his life instead of completely giving up. In fact, some people may think that Graff might even appear to be the heartless villain of the story, but this isn't remotely true. Graff may appear to be this way, but he really does care about what he is doing. He knows exactly what he is doing and resents it, but is also willing to make himself the villain in order to save the world. For example, in the beginning of chapter 11, Graff and another person from the school are discussing the battle schedule for Ender's army. And he says, I know you're right. I shouldn't burden you with my conscience, but my eagerness to sacrifice little children in order to save mankind is wearing thin. Card 174. He knows that he is doing what he has to, but still does not feel like what he is doing is right. As he continues to go on preparing Ender for battle, he feels worse and worse. Much later in the book, when Ender is in command school, Graff and Mazer Rackham are discussing how much longer they should go on with what they are doing. Mazer Rackham has to convince him that Ender can take it and reminds him that it's only a little longer. How long can he go on? He's breaking down. Long enough. It's nearly finished. Card 288. Graff did care about Ender, and he didn't want to put so much weight on Ender's shoulders. but he knew that for the sake of the world he had to. In conclusion, Graf is willing to take risks and is determined to save Earth. He was selfless and, though he appears to be a cold villain, has a softer, caring side. Graf is the most courageous character in Ender's Game.